Joining me down here in the LSU locker room, Jacob Hester, Gordy Rush. After LSU's dominant performance, 55-3 victory, I want to ask Jacob first, as far as first game performances go in, say, the last 10 years, where does this one stand?
Look, for me, I don't remember one where the offense was clicking, the defense was clicking. I mean, you're talking about 5 touchdown passes for Joe Burrow in the first half alone. Look, I can't remember that. The defense holds them under 100 yards total for the entire night. This is a performance you can build on. This is exactly what you needed if you're going into that Week 2 scenario and also next week.
You know, Gordy, we've been hearing for years about how the LSU offense is going to open it up. They're going to throw the ball more. They're going to run more spread. Well, it's finally here.
It finally is here, and it looks great. And I think at its simplest form, the ability to spread the football field with 5- and 4-star athletes and get them the ball very quickly in space, you see what happens when you make that magic simply happen.
Well, you know, we're going to talk a lot about the offense because obviously that was the big story of this game. But at the same time, you only gave up 3 points. This is a Georgia Southern team a year ago, won 10 ball games. Don't know what their win total is going to be this year, but still 3 points is outstanding.
Look, and the offense they run. We talked about the triple option for months leading into this game. And even if you don't give up points, you typically give up yards to a triple option team. Only giving up 98 yards to this team, that's really well done because they're going to bust a run. Or they're going to hit the pitch man. He's going to hit one for 40 down the sidelines. That didn't happen tonight. They were really good on third down. They were really good all night long. This is a dominant performance defensively. You're right. We won't talk about it because of the offense, but we need to because they really came out and showed out.
I want to talk to the special teams guy, Gordy Rush over here. Stingley, a true freshman, and the punt return game. Didn't take one to the house, but it's coming.
It is coming, and if I'm the special teams coordinator, starting with Texas or whoever's going to play LSU, I'm either going to sky kick this thing or I'm going to kick away from him. The worst thing I want that could happen is for my punter to really catch one, a 60-yard, good punt that gives 20 yards of separation between Stingley and my defense. That's trouble. He's fantastic, and it's been a long time since LSU has had a dynamic punt returner. Tyrann Mathieu, maybe? It's been a while.
So, you know, as a coaching staff, you don't go in all week getting ready for Texas and just pat each other on the back and say, hey, great job, we were perfect. So what did you see? What are some things that they know they need to work on before next week?
Here's the thing. You've been working on Georgia Southern, like we mentioned, for months. You're not going to see that offense again this year. And so those practices going into week 2 probably don't help you a lot. So you kind of got to hit reset mode because, look, you liked a lot out here. You didn't give up any sacks either. That's something we talked about, the offensive line. And so not necessarily coaching off this tape. You got to hit the reset button because totally different team next week.
You had some players who didn't play today. You overcame that. This was a tough day for the SEC. They didn't show very well. Obviously, LSU showed well, but as far as when you look around the SEC and what LSU did game 1, you got to like how they stack up.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at the West. Mississippi State was in a dogfight with UL Lafayette. Ole Miss lost to Memphis today. Wyoming is beating Missouri up in Laramie. Arkansas barely got by Portland State. And Alabama really sputtered, I think is a good word, in the first half. So you have to be encouraged if you're an LSU fan the way they played today.
Tennessee lost, and Will Muschamp said it was his best South Carolina team he's had, and they lost to North Carolina, who nobody's really talking about as well. Texas next week. As far as non-conference games go, normally you play these at a neutral site. Not going to be the case next week. Not a lot of LSU tickets to be had.
Look, I kind of love the fact that it's an on-campus game. I love an on-campus type of situation. You don't have the neutral site game like we typically have, like you mentioned. Every eyeball in the country is going to be on this game. There's some big-time matchups in college football, but this is number one. I expect game day to be there. I know LSU Game Day Live will be there. And so every eyeball in the country is going to watch a top 10 matchup. You're going to see, is Texas back? Is LSU going to continue to move forward? I'm looking forward to another country as well.
Before I ask Gordy last question, I want to get your take on the running backs. They played a lot of different guys. What was your overall assessment?
Look, I love the rotation. We talked about it throughout the offseason. They're going to play 5 running backs. I thought Clyde did exactly what we talked about. He came in, he led them down the field. He had a really nice game. Leonard had a nice name, and we saw the freshmen, right? We saw both of them be dynamic. We saw a lot of running backs put their foot in the ground, make a guy miss, and get upfield. Every guy that touched the ball is going to have a big role this year.
Joe Burrow, Gordy, you know, we heard a lot about how he looks so good in practice. Even Miles Brennan has taken some strides in this new offense. Your takeaway from how he's better than he was a year ago?
Well, I think he's very comfortable in this offense, and the ball's coming out quick. And keep in mind, he played in a version of this offense in high school up in Athens, Ohio, and also at Ohio State. So to me, from the spring and all the way through fall camp, you've seen a level of comfort, and his decision-making is very quick.
Well, it's a happy LSU locker room. The Tigers probably played as crisp and clean of a first game as you'll ever see here in Tiger Stadium. Let's go back to the studio in New Orleans.